Is the position you're in today just a job, or is it a career builder for you? And this is an important question to ask ourselves, and it could change even in your current role, month over month or year over year. But I wanted to put a couple of perspectives on some discussions that I've been having with some people on the whole topic of like quiet quitting and what does that really mean, and not doing more than what you're paid to do on an hourly or weekly basis. But it's a very interesting concept to me because I think that when I look at it, it really comes down to what state am I in right now in terms of my life, which could be one of the four seasons that I talk about in other videos, or it could be what I need today to keep my mental health and kind of how I'm feeling. And also keeping in mind that our careers are marathons and not really just sprints. And because there's 49 years from 18 to 67, which I talked about in the previous video. But the point being is that it's important to think about our usage of time in our day-to-day jobs, whether it's day over day or week over week or even month over month. And this is what I mean. So if you look at your current position as a job where, look, you just want to punch the clock and you just want to get, the pay that you're due for the work that you're doing, that's fine. And I don't think anybody should be questioning anybody's personal goals if that's what they need today. And there are times when I would say even your most career-driven people are so burnt out, they're so tired, maybe some family situation comes into play. And so for a period of time, like you can't really invest that extra time that I kind of talk about in dollar cost averaging to improve your skills, but that's okay. And so what I would say is, depending on where you're at mentally, physically in your role, it's probably okay to just do your job for a while and to either recharge or to reset yourself. Or if you feel you've gotten as far as you want in your career and you don't want to grow anymore, well, then you can just do a job, right? You just get paid to do what you're supposed to do. Now, what I would say is in the tech industry that we work in, that could be somewhat challenging because obviously, if there are reductions or things that happen, it can be somewhat challenging, to keep your organizational value high if for whatever reason, your role doesn't require more value to be added. And, it's kind of a slippery slope in my head, because one of the things that makes us more value organizationally is our ability to do broader and broader items. So if you think about when there's a reduction or a realignment, if you have more skills in more areas because you've been investing over time in growing those, well, then you're more valuable to the organization and you'll have more opportunities and potentially even greater opportunities as they come up. So it's an interesting point when, if you think about the position as a career where you are making those investments in your dollar cost averaging, some skills growth over time, and you're taking on more projects, it can really be valuable in thinking about what it means to invest your time. And again, I'm going to go back to the statement I made earlier, which says, look, there are appropriate times when you're just tired and you've been working really hard, you've been growing lots of skills, and you just need to recharge a little bit. Well, that's okay. But again, I'm not talking about it in terms of an absolute, but more of a flow based on where you're at in your career. Like, for example, some people take a new job. Well, they're going to have to usually grow new skills for a while because it's new to you. There'll be new things that pop up that you weren't aware of when you took the job, or it's slightly a different area. So you have to make investments. And then it might be that, like, for example, some people at the pandemic, they had to think about how to juggle home and work life because now they couldn't have, say, childcare, for example, or they had pets that they had to take care of and they didn't have a place to take them because of the pandemic. Now they're juggling two things. And so it's okay, is what I'm saying. Now, I think the counterpoint to it being okay to think about yourself and your job or your career investment for that position today, the challenge is when you want to have both. And I think that's when I've talked to some people who they say they want to just work a job, but they also want to have a career, but they don't want to make investments, is you can't, in my view, have it both ways. Like you don't have to do them both at once, or absolute, like say, hey, I'm never going to make an investment in time or new projects or skills growth, and I'm just going to have a job. Well, you could do that, but then you might be disappointed when you see other people who are investing time continue to grow and continue to take on more scope and skills. So the one thing, when I've talked to some people, when they feel frustrated, you have to be self-reflective in what it is that you want out of your job, meaning you're going to work it as a job, or do you want to use your position as more of a career enhancement by continuing to grow and making investments? And again, in the dollar cost averaging section, you don't always see the investments materialize immediately in returns, because you're learning new skills and they may compound later in your career, but you are making those investments. And so what I would say is, as you kind of go through the thought process of, do I want to just do my day job and not really think about skills growth, and I'm happy with what I'm doing? And what I'd say is that's still okay. Like, I don't think people would ever question somebody's personal desires and where they want to take their job or their career. But you have to remember that if you do that, then you're going to be limited potentially down the road, because when you get to that point where a certain skill is needed and you might not have ever invested in it, well, now you don't have it when the time comes. And so that's just one of the things I try to keep in mind, whether it's for myself or for others, which is, where do you see yourself going in what I call the 5-year plan? Like, what job do you want 5 years down the road? And if you continue to make some investments towards that job, well, then you may reach it when the job is available. Now you've built up the skills and experience to be competitive for it. But if you don't keep that in mind and you just want to stay kind of where you're at, plateaued with your skills and experience, because you're happy, and that's fine to be happy with what you're doing. But if that opportunity comes up and you would be interested in it, you might not have those gaps closed by the time that comes. And what I'd say is, in my own personal experience, you don't always know when those opportunities are going to come up, because they're not always something that you can foresee. Some of the roles that I've been in were because I've kept investing down certain paths of my skills and experience, not even knowing if the certain jobs come available. But when they do, by making some investments, I was more competitive for them than I would have been had I not had a plan about where to go in 5 years. So just a real quick section about whether or not to think about your job and your current position as a job or a career enhancement role. But it really comes down to where you think you want to go in the future, and then preparing yourself for that. And depending on how you treat your job today can significantly impact your ability to be competitive for a job down the road, if you hadn't thought about what kind of investments you'd need to make now in order to be competitive for it later. So I'd love to hear what others think about that. There's a lot of discussions out there about different thoughts, and I'd love to hear about it in the comments. Thank you.